Hello, everybody. Welcome to ReelQuick, episode 123. Wow, the 123, just fun stuff. Getting up there in the ReelQuicks, just moving along with these. So, thank you everyone for coming back. This week's request was Manchester by the Sea from Re'em Beit, a depressing ass movie. I believe this is a rewatch for everyone. I think we've all seen it. Getting the synopsis now. After the death of his older brother, Joe, Lee Chandler, played by Casey Affleck, is shocked that Joe has made him sole guardian of his teenage nephew, Patrick. Taking leave of his job as a janitor in Boston, Lee reluctantly returns to Manchester by the Sea, the fishing village where his working class family has lived for generations. There, he is forced to deal with the past that separated him from his wife, Randy, played by Michelle Williams, and the community where he was born and raised. Casey Affleck notably won the Oscar for best lead actor in this. It's directed by Kenneth Lonergan. Fantastic movie, in my opinion. I have it at a 95 out of 100, 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's one of the best movies of all time. Absolutely heartbreaking, very heartfelt. But we'll start with Mr. Tyler to give your thoughts.
Oh, start with me. So watch this after the Iron Claw. Funny tweet calling to pick me up. Yes, it was satire. Obviously, it's sad. Looking at this is my third time to watch it. I watched it initially, then I watched it to log in a letterbox over a year ago, and then this is a rewatch again. Crazy that my log from over a year ago said like, oh, this movie's like super depressing, but never made me cry. Where I was bawling yesterday. So like, I don't know what I was. Maybe I was just in the best mood ever. Won a fantasy football game or something the last year and didn't cry because I was just a master in this. And Casey Affleck really does give one of the best acting performances I've ever seen in my life in this. It's just phenomenal. Michelle Williams, I was lukewarm on last year, and I still kind of am. Like, I love her a lot as an actress. I don't think this is like her best work. I think Casey Affleck is just so great in this, and maybe it's a little hard to shine. And then I really love Lucas Hedges. I really want to see him on more projects. I think he's great as well. But just heartbreaking. Kyle Chandler, also shout out you. But the screenplay is incredible. The way it's not non-linear storytelling. It's kind of more use of flashbacks. I never really know how to delineate the two between non-linear versus flashbacks, but the way they edit it together and splice it together works really well for me. It's showing his current life right now and how he's dealing with the grief and trauma that he's experienced, overlaid with what caused ultimately the massive majority of that grief and trauma in his life. And you just see a guy that's just so downbeat, like barely holding on at this point. Now he has to care for his, I guess it would be nephew, right? Because it's his brother, Kyle Chandler, who passed away early in the movie, and Lucas Hedges is now his nephew that he has to take care of. So he kind of has to take care of him when he can. I mean, I was gonna say he can barely take care of himself. He can't really take care of himself. I mean, he's getting by as a handyman, but he's getting into fights all the time. He's getting just plastered at bars, like not really taking care of himself whatsoever. And now he has a dependent that he has to take care of, and father. And you can kind of see that he's just like he just doesn't really know how to deal with that age. He doesn't really know how to parent them, give them advice, guide them on what to do and what not to do, give them any sort of reins or freedom. Just really trying to figure out just how to get by and how to raise his boy for now that his father or his brother's passed. And the screenplay is just where it excels here. I think it was both written and directed by what's his name, Kenneth Lonergan. Yeah, Kenneth Lonergan. But yeah, Casey Affleck truly, like, as my third watch at this point, I just think it truly is one of the best acting performances I've ever seen in my life. One of the most depressing movies you'll ever see. Just keeps hitting you and keeps berating you with the grief and trauma that this man experiences. And you just see him just keep slipping to an ability to not really be able to hold on anymore. And from the score, it's haunting and somber, but also at times it kind of contrasts perfectly as like the score is almost a little hopeful and uplifting, stringy, like almost like something I hear in like a Wes Anderson film, while the backdrop of what's actually happening is super depressing and dark. I just think it works really well for a nice contrast. And then, like I said, the editing, I think just how they splice the story together really worked well for me. Cinematography is great as well. I mean, it's a beautiful setting. You're in a Massachusetts town right on the ocean. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about this. I gave it a 4-star first time I watched it, up to a 4.5 star this time. When it comes to films about grief, I know we talked about A Ghost Story, also starring Casey Affleck the other week. But when it comes to grief, Manchester by the Sea is a Hall of Famer, hang the jersey in the rafters, one of the best there can ever be. And like it's like at a risk, like I didn't want to say this because it's like at a risk of like alienating like stories that are heartbreaking, that are like true stories that happen and like about atrocities that have happened in history. Like I'm not trying to alienate those, but I'm just trying to say like this might be like the saddest movie I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of movies that made me cry. But in terms of overall depressing grief, trauma-filled movies, I don't really know if one can like break me the way this does, where either I'm crying or it's just gut wrenching in my body for it. And I'm actually really excited to hear what Cam thinks, because he's a father, and I cannot imagine rewatching this when I'm a father one day. Got to be a whole different level. But yeah, 4.5 star for me.
Nice. Yeah. So I think everyone's at a 4.5, and then I'm the sole 5 on this one. So it's like the ReelTok almost collection is on this one. But Seth, a rewatch for you, I believe, as well. I'm pretty confident it's a rewatch for everyone.
Yeah. So my first time watching it was like last year, and I got a chance to watch it like a few days ago. I can't remember when it was. I think the most impressive thing of Manchester by the Sea is like exactly what Tyler was saying. You know, there are many films like this that focus on how a character, a person deals with tragedy and, you know, the most unforeseen circumstances, horrible circumstances, devastating situations, and how they overcome that. But I think the most impressive thing is it just feels really human and humane, more human than many of its ilk. It feels very, you know, it's void of cliche. It's void of over sentimentality that I think can hinder some films of this ilk that are straying towards the emotional. I think it really works just on the front of just being so human. On grief, on emotion. I think Casey Affleck just portrays everything just stupendously well across the board. And the same with Michelle Williams. I'm probably higher on Michelle Williams in this than Tyler. Like, I specifically love, obviously, the scene where they're like they run into each other. I think she's got the pram or something. They have that conversation there. Just a beautiful moment, a raw, sincere screenplay that I think works in that. Like I said, it's just void of anything cliche. I think technically it's a brilliant film. Some of the setting kind of works similar to what Tyler said with the score. It's almost isolating in where he lives, you know, with the cold winter atmosphere, but then also kind of hopeful as well. And it has that soar over the top, that kind of that somber atmosphere. And it really is just watching him deal with something he's not ready to take on, a responsibility he's not ready for, a responsibility he didn't see. After going through so much tragedy, how does he get to the other end? I really like Lucas Hedges in this. I think he's a fantastic actor. It's a shame he doesn't really do much anymore. I know he was doing the Brokeback Mountain, wasn't he, on Broadway, I think, which is really, really cool. That's amazing. And I think he's fantastic in this, and I think he portrays the role really well. And I think they just counteract each other. The antithesis characters just incredibly well also. And whilst it remains hopeful, it doesn't have this, you know, crazy, you know, happy moments, which, you know, they come out the other side. It remains hopeful, but it's still somber. It's still devastating, and it still has the memories are still attached to him of obviously what happened. What's the timeline in this? Like, how many years are we talking? I can't remember. Does it say in the film? I can't remember. It's like
it's only like it's 5 months or something. It's like 5 months because he can't get buried because the weather is super bad. He's just staying till the end of the school year. So I assume it's like winter to summer
in the same year kind of thing.
Yeah, he gets buried, like he has a like delayed burial basically because the ground's too cold.
But yeah, I think this film is fantastic. I think it's like one of those that's kind of just as good as everyone gives credit for, if not even better. I would say, like, I did a ranking of like the best actor winners of the past 10 years. What was it, 2016? Oh, 2017 Oscars.
Yeah, 17 Oscars.
Yeah. And I think this was like my number 2. So I hold this performance as Casey Affleck really, really highly. And I think it's truly just one of the most remarkable portrayals of human emotion, real human emotion I've ever seen. And I echo what Tyler said, that, you know, I watch a lot of films, and this is one that kind of affects me a lot. You know, there are very, very few, very, very small percentage of films that affect me like this. You know, The Elephant Man, Mysterious Skin, Schindler's List, and then, you know, these sort of films. And I think this is right up there in terms of how it emotionally impacts me. Yeah, just a stunning film, incredible. 4.5 out of 5 for me, and deserves all the recognition that it receives. Has the guy done anything else that I would know of? I'm actually intrigued now.
He's a writer.
Just a writer.
Yeah, he's written a ton.
Gangs of New York. Yeah. Okay. He directed a film called Margaret in 2011.
Did a couple of TV really high reviews, then, but
I haven't seen that. That's got like 3.9 on Letterboxd. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, all he's done since is written 2 TV series that no one's heard of, Howard's End and Acting for a Cause.
Yeah.
Fair enough. If you're going to deliver something like that, then, you know, that's what it is. Fair enough.
Yeah. He got Rocky and Bullwinkle in his bag, so he's been there, done that. George, your quick thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything Tyler and Seth have said up to this point. Casey Affleck is just a revelation in this movie. I think he's fucking fantastic. I know initially Matt Damon was supposed to play the character of Lee Chandler, and as great as Matt Damon is, I cannot see him having put on that level of like emotion in a performance the way Casey Affleck did. I think that's a very, very one of the few deserving Best Actor Oscars that has been given out over the last couple of years. Not that any other winner has been deserving, but there's always been a better choice. But Casey Affleck absolutely earned that Oscar, just putting on one of the best performances. I mean, I agree with Tyler, of all time that I've ever seen, in just terms of just showing real life emotion and just being raw with it. The movie itself is just one of the most heartbreaking experiences ever. It's still just yesterday. It continues to manage to get a tear out of me. It doesn't matter. I think that was my maybe third or fourth time having seen it. And it continues to, you know, I'm sure we'll talk spoilers, but when we get to certain sequences that, you know, just ruin me. But the movie is just one of the most raw and real looks at grief and loss and also growth. Casey Affleck's character kind of has to immediately process that his brother passed away and then immediately take responsibility of this new child. So it's just a very interesting look at growth and grief and how the two are kind of intertwined. And again, Casey Affleck is just so good at portraying both of those simultaneously. And then Tyler brought up the score, which is something I would like to bring up as well. It's just fantastic. Tyler took the words out of my mouth. He worded it perfectly. It's just so hopeful, but it's also just so depressed. So it makes for a very, you know, uncertain and interesting experience. But yeah, Seth and Tyler pretty much said everything I wanted to say about this movie. It's just so heartbreaking and so fantastic. And it's just one of the most, you know, raw just looks at life that I've ever seen. And that's a big credit to Casey Affleck again. And I would have liked more of Michelle Williams. I think she's obviously one of the best to ever do it. So every time I watch this movie, I'm always just kind of like, damn, you know, she really not necessarily took a back seat, but she was definitely underutilized considering who she is. But other than that, Lucas Hedges, fantastic. Script, fantastic. Great writing. Overall, just a really, really solid movie. Could go up to 5 stars, honestly. The more I think about it, the more I talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hit what you guys say. I love this movie. I don't love it, but because it's just depressing as hell. But I think it's fantastic. Casey Affleck, just all the praise to him. And I didn't watch this till like a year ago, and then rewatched it for this. But I grew up and I didn't watch Good Will Hunting till, you know, pretty recently, and didn't watch any of the Ocean's movies till pretty recently. So the only thing I knew Casey Affleck from growing up was Tower Heist, where he's just like bad, just very dull. So I was like, I don't think that guy's a very good actor. Like, just retroactively thinking when I like got into film a little bit more. No, he's a very good actor. And like you guys mentioned, this may be one of the best performances of all time. To go into it a little bit, obviously, if you have seen this movie, fantastic. If you have not, Casey Affleck, like mentioned in the synopsis, gets custody of his nephew, played by Lucas Hedges. But when he comes back to Manchester by the Sea, you see flashbacks. He had a big party, he got drunk, and like everyone was drinking. And so he didn't want to drive to the store. So he walked to the store to, I think, pick up cigarettes, or what was it to pick up?
More beer.
Okay, that's it. Yeah. So he goes to the store to pick up beer, comes back, and the house is burned down. All 3 of his kids pass, are killed in the fire. And that may be just like the saddest scene of all time. But then like immediately after, he tries to pull the gun on himself in a police station. Again, an incredibly sad scene that just like has been taken out of context to Twitter and is like one of the most memed scenes of all time. But when you're watching it, like in the movie, it's like just a heartbreaking scene. But yeah, it's probably one of the most meme scenes of all time, of him grabbing the cop's gun and trying to shoot himself. And then basically has to learn how, once he's given custody of this kid, has to go back to Manchester by the Sea, has to reconnect with some people, reconnect with Lucas Hedges' mom, who is played by, I can't remember. I'm not even going to try. If you guys know off the top of your head, great. But and then also like reconnect with Michelle Williams. I like that this movie, I think one of you guys mentioned, it doesn't end super hopeful, but it ends like better than it was, like you're not gonna have an amazing life after your 3 kids were killed in a fire.
And your brother.
Yeah, and your brother.
Not in the fire, but
yeah,
just
and your
passed
brother
away.
died. Like you're not gonna be super happy, but you got custody of this kid. Maybe you'll be happier with him, but I like that this, and you mentioned it with the score. The score is depressing, but a little bit hopeful in there. You can have a little bit of a life after this. While it may not be great, you can still connect with this kid that you've been given custody to. And clearly he was a good father before, and now he's obviously a drunk and everything. But I appreciate that it doesn't end and it's like, oh, everything's better now, because it's not.
Everything's on the up and up, but yeah, it's nice not having like just like a Disney kind of ending where everything's just like 100% fantastic. I think one of like the more heartbreaking moments in this movie is when he just starts punching people in bars. Like that's a battered man right there. Like he wants to get his ass kicked. Like he's hoping that someone's gonna like throw a fist in his face and that's just gonna like kill him.
Or at the end of the movie when he just like breaks down crying. I think that's like one of the most impactful like movie or scenes in the movie, after he gets in the bar fight and everything. It's just a sad watch. Don't go into this like hoping for anything great, but or hoping for like a good time. But if you're wanting a sad watch, this is the answer for you. And performances through and through, in my opinion, are fantastic. Lucas Hedges is just so goddamn good, and he hasn't really done anything in Hollywood in the last.
He was nominated,
3
right,
years.
for this for supporting actor. I'm pretty sure.
I think so. And then he's in Lady Bird. He's in 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Boy Erased, mid-90s, Honey Boy, and then hasn't done anything since 2020. So
he does all these like wannabe A24 films.
Yeah, dude, this is I think we mentioned.
Yeah, you did. You brought it up.
Like A24 movie that's not A24.
Yeah.
He does. You're not wrong about that. But he does a lot of theater stuff now. I think he's a theater adaptation of Brokeback Mountain this year. He's a theater kid. Makes sense because he's a fantastic actor. Hope to see him some more things. Bring him to the MCU, all that jazz. No, but just performances throughout, amazing. Not much more to touch on with this one. Just wholeheartedly, like I think all of us are huge fans of this thing. And if you need a depressing watch, definitely the one to check out. Do you guys have anything more to say? I found a couple fun facts on IMDb we can go through, but other than that, I don't have much more.
Yeah, I just think this movie toes the line really well of what we talked about, me and Cam, a couple weeks ago with The Beautiful Boy. Like there was multiple moments this movie could have dipped into that, just being too trauma and cry porn. Like the end of the movie, like it's a little optimistic, but also at the same time, like I don't really know if either Casey Affleck or Lucas Hedges are gonna survive tomorrow. I don't know if they do. Like it's like this, they're both on the up and up, but like you also don't know. They're both very depressed. Lucas Hedges' parents, or like his mom and like stepfather, don't want him, and he's just with Casey Affleck, who he says like he just can't live in Manchester anymore. But will moving to Boston solve that? Like you just don't know. And then also, like when they decide to sell the guns, like I feel like easily someone with the less sense, like a less apt hand at making the screenplay could have been like, oh, let's have one of them shoot and kill themselves or something, just like for a good old like cry porn there. And then I think Kenneth Lonergan as director and Casey Affleck as actor just worked so well together with the scene where he experiences that his house burned down, to just give a reserved emotional response where he's in shock and disbelief and doesn't know how to respond, rather than the easy solution of having him break down crying, doing like a classic like clip that'll be used in montages on TikTok and Twitter of like, this is the best acting ever of this guy like breaking down. Rather, they just went for something so subtle and quaint. And I think a lot of the decisions they made in this movie are what hinder it back from being a beautiful boy, where it's like there's just too much like trauma porn at times, whereas like this truly is like just hits all the beats of a depressing grief trauma movie, while also not being too overly sentimental about the ending, but not diving too deeply into just like cheap cries. But yeah, I'm excited for some fun facts.
Yeah, just a couple fun ones. How fun can you get on this movie? But I guess like Manchester by the Sea is not, like, in real life, is not by any means a fisherman's town where it's all blue collar. It's like very wealthy and everything. So that's one of the fun facts. Kenneth Lonergan almost took out the confession scene, but Casey Affleck like really fought to keep that in, explained the importance of why his character chose not to drive the car and put a log on the fire because he was looking after his daughter whose sinuses dry out. So they inevitably ended up keeping that. And I think that's just a scene that kind of builds like these characters and like, oh, he's clearly a good father who made a massive mistake and like ruined everything. But I think that's a good little nugget in the film. Despite being on the featured on the poster for this film, Michelle Williams has less than 12 minutes of screen time in this, which is like less than 10% of the film's runtime. But yeah, you look at this and you're kind of like, oh, it's a Casey Affleck and Michelle Williams movie. It's just not. You just kind of get her name on there. And then the fire department corrected Kenneth Lonergan's inclination to bring all the bodies out at once, as bodies are in reality brought out at once for respect for the family. So that's not fun, but at least they were comic accurate on this one. We'll call it fireman accurate. And then I guess where the paramedics try to roll the stretcher into the ambulance and fail, and that was not scripted. That just kind of happened, and they were like, run with it.
That scene was so infuriating.
Yeah, right.
Also, the scene where he's on the phone with the hospital or whatever, like, what did she do with the body? Meanwhile, like, they just keep like pouring milk and clanging bowls and spoons. Like, that's that was like almost Uncut Gems level of anxiety where I'm like, shut the fuck up. Yeah. And then he has like his girlfriend being like, I don't think he needs to hear this right now. And I was like, boy, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, shut this scene needs to end or I'm going to snap.
Yeah, that's true, honestly. But those are the fun facts. I don't know. There's a bunch more, but you can look those up on IMDb. I'm not going to read through them all. Overall, 4.5 out of 5 from Tyler, George, and Seth. A 5-star for me. 95 out of 100. One of the better movies, without a doubt, that we've reviewed on this on the ReelQuicks. Absolutely amazing. Go check it out if you have not, and if you have and want to cry again, go check it out as well. It's on Prime Video always, as it is a Prime original, so you can always watch it there, which is kind of nice. You don't have to worry about where you're going to watch this if you want to. But yeah, we'll be back next week for ReelTok episode 68, if I'm not mistaken. Happy holidays to all who are celebrating. And next week, the ReelTok nominees for our ReelTok Awards. So hell yeah.